Alright, this is the host of the show's name, and bet you didn't think there'd be another one of these. Well, there is, and this time I actually have Jeff too.
Hello.
Yeah. So we are going to be talking more about the free Eternal Summer English dub. We just finished watching episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12, which I thought were 4 really good episodes all in a row. Like, what were your opinion on those 4 episodes? Like, in the original one? Like, were they all... I thought...
What do you mean? Like in Japanese and in English?
Yeah, I feel like those were 4 of the best episodes of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it wraps it all... It begins to wrap it all up very nicely. And you see a lot of big moments that you knew were coming. And a lot of character development and just a lot of really big...
Emotions. Yeah, this is the... We had Haruka choking... Sosuke telling his story to Rin. You had the big fight between Haruka and Makoto, and then you had the Australia episode, which is just full of a lot of emotional moments. And we are here to talk a little bit more about the quality of the English dub. Now, let's just go through the character roster one more time to see if our opinions have changed. I think that Johnny Young Bosch was still a really good choice for Makoto. What do you think?
Okay, I'm going to preface this with my opinion of dub versus sub has changed slightly. I don't think you could ever definitively say one is better than the other. Because I think, especially like studying language at school, language has so much contextually behind it that theoretically, there really is no way to fully translate everything from one language to another. Like the meaning behind words, the social meaning behind actions, all of these things. So no English version is ever going to match the Japanese version or vice versa. So I don't think you can ever say that one is better or worse than the other. There's a personal preference, absolutely. I still prefer the Japanese version, even after watching
I think at this point I prefer the dub.
But I think it's kind of useless to compare the two because it really is like comparing apples and oranges. But as for Johnny Young Bosch being Makoto, I think, again, the voice actor from Makoto is trying to fill this spot of a kind, sensitive young man who wants the best for his friends before himself. And I think that sounds different to different people. I think to the average American, Johnny Young Bosch does sound like that kind of guy. And in Japan, he fills that role very well also. But I think that they're different as you cross cultural and linguistic lines.
Well, I would just like to say, I don't know as much about culture and different languages as Jeff does. But I will say, I would describe both of them as kind of like a big teddy bear, but I would say that I got that image more readily with the Japanese voice actor. And then we got Todd Haberkorn as Haruka Nanase. I definitely think that it got better as time went on. Like, a little bit better. It's weird, because usually, in almost all cases, actually, the voice in English is lower than the voice in Japanese. But as the case with both Haruka and Rin, the voice is higher in English. So I actually thought that was a welcome change. I think that overall, Todd Haberkorn did a really good job as Haruka. What about you?
I think they tried to go about the character differently in the dub versus the sub. I think the sub was content. The Japanese version was content to just making him aloof and just lonesome. But I think the dub tried to make him a little bit more odd and like angsty than I think the Japanese people thought it was necessary for him to be. So in terms of how they approached the character, because again, the voices, they're just trying to fill this character that they've created for themselves. So in terms of, I think that they've matched the character that they've created, that Todd Haberkorn fits the American Haru in the same way. What was his name?
Johnny Young Bosch?
No.
Vic Mignogna?
No. In Japanese. What's his name?
I don't know his name.
Oh. Nobunaga. I think is his name. But anyway, yeah. So Haru
Nobunaga,
Nobunaga, I think is his surname. But anyway, like the
like Nobunaga Oda.
no, but like so the Seiyu in Japanese filled the character in the same way that Todd Haberkorn did. I personally think that the Japanese character was good on its own, and that Todd just added a little bit more of an anger that I didn't think was entirely necessary, because Haru was already angry. He just wasn't as angry. I don't know. It's very odd. It's the differences are really just nuances, but all these nuances add up into something very noticeable in the finished product.
He prefers the old aunts.
Can't believe you made that.
Yes, I will never apologize for that. And then we got Greg Aris as Nagisa. Are you still sad that they couldn't get Thug Seme?
I think that it's just funny. Nagisa's the comic relief. Nagisa is the friendly, playful guy that just he's there to lighten the situation. And I think Greg Aris did okay, but if they could have gotten Octopimp to do like Thug Seme Nagisa from 50% off, it would have been better. But of course,
that wouldn't be practical.
Oh, I think it would be amazing, but it would just he wouldn't fit in among a normal cast.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have fit. That we have to admit that would have been pretty funny.
It would have been funny, but it also wouldn't have fit.
It wouldn't have worked.
Okay, who's next?
J. Michael Tatum as Rei Ryugazaki. Now, you recently saw Steins Gate, not in English, but that's kind of that fits in the kind of character that J. Michael Tatum usually plays. I think that he was probably the best person they could have picked for Rei.
I'm not a fan of Rei in English or in Japanese.
Yeah, Rei is neither of us really like him as a character.
So,
but I actually think he's a lot less like harsh in English. Like, he seems like more of a sweet guy in the English version.
I really have no opinions on Rei. I don't think. I mean, he's important, I guess, but I don't like him very much.
Then we got Go, who
they could have made her sassy.
She was sassy.
No. This is actually where I find my first actual problem with this dub. Caitlin Glass and Jamie Marchi sounded so alike, and they don't.
They usually don't.
They
sound
don't
alike.
Exactly. So I don't understand why they decided that they needed two women when they were just going to make them sound the same. Jamie Marchi can bring on the sass, and I think a sassy Go would have been a little bit more.
Just go full on panty.
Maybe, because I've never seen it, but like that's the point.
Oh my gosh, Panny is
okay. So, but like, Caitlin Glass did the right voice as like a supportive, young but still old,
kind of like
teacher.
A grown-up Winry.
Or I guess Caitlin Glass was Winry, yeah.
Yes, she was.
And then Jamie Marchi was supposed to be the sassy kind of matter of fact. You need to do some work. I'm here to help you kind of girl. And they made her too soft. And as a result, both the two main female characters sounded the same. And I don't think that was necessary or just, it was dumb. It was actually really kind of dumb.
I think that they either could have changed the direction for Go, but if they were going to do that, they could have gotten a different like voice type altogether.
No, because Jamie Marchi sounds good when she's sassy. And they had her tone it down to like this quiet, not even. Well, just it was an odd choice.
I think she's sassier. She's definitely sassier in English than she was in Japanese.
I disagree.
Really?
Yes.
Like, even the stuff she says, like, I guess you could just act like your friends all fell on the face of the earth when you go transfer schools or whatever. Like, I feel like she was definitely a lot more sassy in English than she was in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Vic Mignogna as Rin Matsuoka. Again, they knocked it out of the park. I think that might be the best casting in the entire show. And it just kept getting better and better. I really loved it.
Again, I think it's a difference of typecasting between Japanese and American cultures. Because in Japanese, it was just simply enough for him to be rough and angry and deep, like Mamoru Miyano. And in American culture, we don't see people that rough and gruff in the same way as we see people with softer voices that put up big fronts. So I think to make this character more relatable to American audiences, Vic Mignogna was the correct choice. But when people point out the differences between Mamoru Miyano's and Vic's performances, that's the reason why. Because it tries to fit this association that we have with the people who are just struggling on the inside, and they have voices like Vic's, I guess. It made sense. Like, it didn't sound wrong to me.
And again, I like the fact that Haru and Rin sounded similar in Japanese, and they sound similar in English. Because, like, I noticed that, like, the eye design is pretty much the same for both of them, and they kind of look alike. They're kind of like two sides of the same coin when it comes to how you approach your problems. The next up is Ian Sinclair as Sosuke Yamazaki.
Sounds like Patrick Warburton liked it sometimes, didn't like it other times, and he is just... I don't like Sosuke, so...
I definitely
whatever.
think my opinion of Ian Sinclair as Sosuke has gotten a lot better. I still feel like it could have been better if it was somebody else, but Ian Sinclair did the best with what he did. I actually think the main problem is that Sosuke wasn't enough of a jerk. Because recently I saw the Gangsta dub, and he did pretty good as Warwick. But, like, the thing is that if he's gonna play tough characters, he's usually better at playing the tough characters that are also, like, kind of jerks. Because, like, I wouldn't really describe Sosuke as that, especially he's not really a Warwick type. He's a little bit more reserved and held back. It was, I think, an odd casting, but I still think it worked. I definitely think he showed off his stuff in episode 10. Like, well done, gold star, you did wonderfully. I think that was really good. You?
Was that when he let it out that his shoulder was broken?
Yeah, his shoulder got all purple.
Aw.
It's so purple.
I think it was just... I can't even think of, like, a real difference between the typecasting. I just think it was just weird. Because, again, like, as you said, Sosuke should have been more reserved and more calculating. Kind of super villainy, but not in a comic way. In kind of like a... this guy is always thinking ahead and trying to do what he wants to do.
Considering the characters that Ian Sinclair usually plays, like, recently I've seen him as Warwick from Gangsta, Zap from Blood Blockade Battlefront, Brook from One Piece. He's a little bit... He's not someone like Patrick Sietz or Travis Willingham, who sound very, like... They're not... Their voice types are different, even though they sound the same. And these are little things, but little things can make a big difference. Alright, next up is probably the biggest voice difference between Japanese and English. Josh Grell as Nitori. His voice is so much lower. It's lower than Vic's, and it's much lower than the Japanese voice actor. Do you know his name? The voice actor in Japanese?
No. But, again, that's American Association versus Japanese Association. We expect, like, a dork to sound like that. And Josh Grell sounds like a dork. And he was a good choice.
This Josh Grell sounds like a dork.
Oh,
like,
wait. You're talking about Future Diary.
He was a dork in Yukiteru. I was talking about his character in Psycho Pass. Or his character in Blood Blockade Battlefront, Fempt.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that overall this is pretty good. I think maybe they could have gotten somebody else, but overall, I liked it. Then we got Jerry Jewell as Momotaro. I think that he was a pretty good choice for this.
I like Momo. I think they did a decent enough job. It's definitely differences in how people view enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's like in the Japanese version, like it was more like in your face nuts than it was in English.
Because if people are more reserved over there, then it takes less to be out of the ordinary outgoing. So like in English, it could be a little bit more subtle because we're used to really outgoing people a lot more, maybe. And then if you're around a lot more reserved people, it takes less to stand out.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird because I've seen a couple of things that Jerry Joel's in, and he usually plays either the quiet, reserved, average Joe or someone who's absolutely terrifying. So I would say that almost Momo is like right smack in the middle between the two. Like someone who's like just normal and someone who's completely insane. Someone like Claire or Barry the Chopper.
Okay. The one thing I will say is that in the special, which has not been aired yet, I do know, but in the special, Nagisa and Momo play off each other, and their voices are similar in Japanese, and it makes for a really good time, and I don't see that working out very well.
We're not going to have that situation in English.
What?
We're not going to have the situation of them sounding alike.
Well, yeah, they sounded alike, and they played off of each other because their voices worked together, and I don't think that they work together as well in English. But that's obviously a very small point of an episode that hasn't even aired yet.
All right, well, let's talk about probably one of the biggest changes they made, how they handled the Australia episode. Now, in the original one, it was all Japanese, and they changed the language. But in English, I think we're supposed to assume they really were speaking English the entire time. Like, often you're just getting like, okay, they're speaking Japanese, but we're hearing it as English. But in this one, they really were speaking English. Like, there was no language gap in Australia. But one thing that they did that I liked is that he's not like doesn't speak the language. Haru could speak the language, but it was also still a really foreign experience for him, and Rin was still a lot more used to it. Like, you didn't need the language to have that sort of disconnect that Haru felt.
I disagree.
Like, well, I felt like
I think that the language was critical, and I think when they took that language barrier away, it lost a lot of its symbolicism and symbolic meaning, because you were supposed to feel so out of place, because even the language that you, like, even someone, like, you didn't have to speak Japanese, but you know what Japanese sounds like if you watch anime like this. So you've been listening to 11 episodes of Japanese, and you're used to it. And then you go back to this English, and Australian English at that. I mean, if you're from Australia, it's not that big a difference, but it's very odd. And it's just, it made it so much more foreign, and it was a very well done job. And then in English, they just, rather than
the disconnect was still there.
Rather than try to highlight the dialectual disconnect, maybe, because there are some places, obviously not in like tourist Sydney, but like Australians can have some really deep dialects that can get really crazy. They could have tried to play off that, but no, they just ignored it altogether, and they took away really kind of what made the episode so special.
I think that the disconnect was there, but it was still less pronounced in English. And we went from like very slow, almost stilted English to Outback Steakhouse commercial.
Well, that's because we speak English.
Shrimp on the barbie.
It did sound like an Outback commercial.
Signature sirloin.
I want Outback.
Bloomin' onion.
Let's go to Outback.
No. We have a vlog to do, Jeff.
No, Outback.
Alright, well, we gotta go to Outback after this, apparently. I actually think that in almost every single facet, the dub worked better than the subtitle. I know that you probably disagree with that.
I have come to the realization that there really is no better or worse for these type of things, but I prefer the sub, absolutely. I think it, for me, I liked it more.
When you get down to it, it's not just like a different version of the same thing. It's almost like an adaptation in a way. And sometimes you can adapt a thing in so many different ways. There's an infinite way to adapt the same product, and how it's adapted and how it comes across, that's the choice of the translator and the director.
Exactly. So, before we leave, I just want to let you guys know, if you like what I happen to say, please comment and tell him that you like what I have to say so I can do more of these, because these are actually really fun. Also, I have a My Anime List account as well, JMCCA063. He'll probably put something in the description about that.
Well, I have to now.
Yes, you do. Shameless plug, go. So you can follow what I'm watching, and
They don't even follow my stuff on my
some of
anime
them
list.
do, I'm sure.
I assume they do, but I'm gonna act like almost none of them do.
All right. Well,
And
right
if
now,
you actually do, prove me wrong and say so in the comments, please. Say I'm interrupting your shameless plug with my shameless plug.
this isn't going to have any comments. I hope you know. This is going to be the one video where there is no comments. Not even your faithful fans will comment on this video. So anyway, right now I'm into Fairy Tail and Arslan.
He's all over Fairy Tail.
Fairy Tail's so much fun.
Yeah,
If
I'm
you-
gonna see Fairy Tail after I'm like about 100 episodes into One Piece.
Just watch Fairy Tail. It's really good.
Okay.
And don't listen to what people say about filler and how it's like not worth watching. If you understand that it's filler, you can appreciate it differently. And that you appreciate it differently than straight from manga to anime, but you can still enjoy it. So just watch Fairy Tail. It's very, very fun.
Okay. All right. These are two anime lovers signing off. Thank you for listening to what we have to say in our shameless plugs.
Bye!
Bye.